Hey everyone, welcome to Fashion Design with Hannah. Today we'll be getting into how to sketch in Adobe Illustrator. I'll be giving you some tips and shortcuts along the way to speed things up. I would also like to mention that you have two major options for sketching in the computer. One is a mouse, the other is a stylus. Using a mouse is actually kind of clunky when you're trying to go for speed. It can also start to exhaust your hands a bit. I would recommend using the Wacom tablets. This is an unsponsored video, but I've used them for sketching in school, sketching in my workplace, and for sketching at home. So I've used the range of the models. I personally have the cheapest model, so I can tell you that that one is still high quality. It doesn't have all the different nibs that you can use at the end of the stylus, but it still works great. I've built portfolios off of it, and I've had other friends who use it as well. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I put out new videos every Thursday, and I have them full of tips and tricks for the fashion industry, so don't be afraid to click that notification bell so you get the notification when I post a new video. To start off, we'll be using a tabloid artboard as your classic portfolio size, along with this croquis right here. It's mainly used for tops, could be used for some shorter dresses. The other croquis you see right here is used for dresses, pants, and jumpsuits, but today I'll be sketching this shirt right here. So we'll get started by embedding this photo so that way I don't have to worry about the file location, and it'll always be within this file. Then I'm going to resize and reposition the picture so that way the shirt is now about the same size as the croquis, so I can get a good eye for the proportion. So we'll start here with the pen tool. And before we sketch, let's look right here at the shape that we have going on with the armhole, the waist, and the hem. And we'll start sketching on the half. I like to start with the neck-shoulder intersection and then go to the armhole. There's a couple ways to do the armhole. My favorite method would have to be the curve point halfway through the armhole, as it tends to be the quickest and easiest to adjust, and then just make it curved. And you'll see me use that curve technique for the waist as well. Then we'll come on down to the hem and give it a little bit more of a curve so you can see a drape going on, as this t-shirt is more draped and less fitted. And we'll go up to the neckline, and with the v-neck there's a couple ways to do the shape as well. You can do either the point at center front and curve it from there, or you can do a midway point, kind of like how you did with the armhole, and then come on down to the center front. And after you get that initial neckline shape the way that you want it to be, now is the good time to do a reflection. For this, you're going to need the reflect tool, or the O key. Choose your point of reflection, which is your center front. Then click outside of the sketch, hold the Alt key, then the Shift, and then drag, and you'll see the other half appear. And you also want to make sure that you join the two together at the points where they should meet. To do this, you grab onto both of the anchor points, do a right click, do an average, and then join. That way they both meet in the center. They don't have this odd gap between each other. And then you'll have a closed shape, which makes it really easy for recoloring. The closed shape is confirmed by these little handlebars on the outside of the anchor point. And then we're going to add in a stroke fill or outline to the sketch and revisit this armhole. The regular set and sleeve, it won't come down that far, so we can just go ahead and adjust that. And we'll look into this hem. I feel like it could be a little bit lower. And where it meets down in the center, it shouldn't be angular, it should be straight and flat because it's the center front. Now would be a good time to add in the back, which you can do by copying the front and raising the center back neckline, as all garments will have a back, so it's important to sketch the back as well, even though you can't see it on the model. So we're just going to raise this up, and then we're going to send it to the back. I'll show you how to send it to the back in just a little bit. For now, let's see how this proportion looks. I think we can bring this waist out a little bit. It's a little bit too fitted as it was. Then we can go ahead and start adding in the drape lines. I like to start mine from the waist first and then go down to the hem. I like to make sure that these lines actually connect to the outline so that way they don't look chunky or odd. You should also make sure that these don't have a fill, as that can mess up recoloring. So we're just going to remove that and then do some fine tuning on this sketch. These lines don't get a solid straight line on my sketches. I like them to look more realistic, so I will give them a tapered line, and that is a brush that I have from previous sketches. These brushes really do save a lot of time, so it's great to have them on hand, and I'll show you how to do them in a future video. Let's continue on to doing the other draping lines at the hem. We're just going to make them have these lovely lines that you see on the shirt leading up to the bust. Again, I'm going to want these to be tapered lines, and you can really draw as many lines as you feel necessary. I don't like my sketches too cluttered. It's also nice when these lines aren't symmetrical, as that can just look a little bit too perfect. So once you've done the reflect, you can start messing around with them. An important detail to add in is the stitching. The best way to do that is once you have a shape that you like, to copy that line and then remove the fill. Be sure to only select the points that you want, or else you will be copying extra information. To take away the shape fill, you can either go to the sidebar and change it where you see the swatch, or you can do the / and it will remove it. Once you have that line ready, you can then add your stitching brush. For this one, we're going to do a double needle top stitch. It's a very common hem. Now we can move on to the neckline, which for the purpose of this demo will be very similar to the hem. Some people will want the neckline to be a different color, and for that you just make it another closed shape, so you have to copy that neckline shape twice and then connect them with the pen tool. This is starting to look like a shape that I like, so let's zoom in and make sure that we have the correct details. This neckband is an overlapping neckband, so we have to be sure that that is correct. We'll just copy that neckline, adjust it as we want. Let's see. We'll move it down and out a little bit. And then correct that angle with the handlebars. Let's see, the overlap is right over left, so we'll just draw in a little line. It's a little hack, you don't have to draw two shapes. If you want to, you can add a shadow behind that line. For now, for time's sake, I'm just going to keep it as is. And since I like this shape somewhat, we'll do a tiny adjustment. We'll go ahead and copy that line and add in stitching, because this neckband doesn't want to have a seam floating around, so we're going to add a stitching line on the outside. This one will only be a single needle top stitch. Some companies will have it as double needle or even an overlock. And we have to add the neckband on to the back neck as well. Make sure that the back neckband is the same width as the front neckband, and you can do that by making the anchor points match and adjusting it as necessary. We'll send that to the back so it's not visible on the front. And we will be adding an overlock stitch in a little bit. I just realized I don't have it currently there. In the meantime, we will start adding in our shadows so this sketch has some depth. We're going to do this by adding a shape for the shadow to live in. You just want to adjust it so it's a little bit more like the neckline. Some people will add in a solid color for the shadow, however that doesn't work as well for recoloring, so I really suggest doing a black shadow with a lower opacity. As promised, I will now show you how to send it to the back. So you're going to go to the Object menu at the top, then Arrange, Send Back or Send Backward. I would suggest sending it all the way to the back to begin with, and then bringing it one step forward. This will definitely speed things along when you are in a hurry, so you don't have to make things perfect. You can just send them to the back, and what's visible in the front is what you see. Now we can move on to the sleeves of the garment. You see one side has a little bit more of a drape look, the other a little bit more flat. And to start the sleeve, we'll go over the shoulder of the crow key and decide on a good short sleeve length, which usually hits a little bit below the armhole, and then connect it back up. We definitely need that closed shape for the sleeves as well. And then we'll send this to the back so we don't have to be as perfect with this shape. Then get a little sleeve cap that we like the shape of. It might be a little bit much, but we can adjust that as we want. Make sure to always compare the proportions of the sketch to the actual picture. And then once you are satisfied, you can then add in your stitching line. Again, just like the hem of the torso, I would suggest doing a double needle top stitch. It is a very common finishing stitch to use on hems. The other option is single needle top stitch. If you like the sleeve the way it is, you can certainly go on and reflect it to the other side. However, if you want to make the sleeve look a little bit more lively, you can add in that curved shape. And just like the other sleeve, you're going to correct the sleeve shape that you want before adding in the stitching. So we're going to compare that. I think that is alright, so I am going to add in the shadow here. I'm just going to use the eyedropper tool to take the shadow that I already have on the garment, since I like that. Add it in. Double check that I still like the curve, then add in my stitching. And that will be it for this sleeve. With the sleeves out of the way, I think it is now time to add the shadows to the rest of the garment. I'm going to start here at the hem and work our way up. I prefer not to have too many shadows on my garment to keep it clean. You can always add more shadows in if you want to, though. If you add some to this garment, you can make it look like the hem is a little bit more draped. Again, with my style, I'm just going to clean it up a little bit and then move on to the shadows at the waist to show some fabric falling. And we can't forget about adding that overlock stitch to the back neckband seam. So I just copied and pasted one of my previous designs with an overlock stitch and added it to this document so I have the brush. Now I just copied the back neck seam, turned it into the overlock stitch, and then sent it to the back. So here we have our sketch. Obviously you wouldn't have two different sleeves, but once you like what you've got, I would highly suggest grouping. Grouping keeps all of your stuff together. Definitely group within a group, so that way you have the option to say remove a sleeve, remove a neckband, and of course group the entire sketch, so that way stuff is not left behind. With that sketch done, we can now get into every designer's favorite part, recoloring. So I would suggest going into the art wheel that is at the top and then changing the colors from there. It makes recoloring so simple. Here it is in pink, and look, I just copied and pasted, and let's choose a cyan. And there you have it, your basic tee. That's all for today's video, so let me know in the comments below if there are any other shortcuts you want me to go over in a future video. Thanks for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button along with the notification bell so you know when I post a new video. Also, leave a like and a comment below on what you'd like to see in the next Illustrator tips and tricks.